Hey guys, welcome back to another video here on NASCAR Talk. Today we'll be talking about the Daytona race. Hope you enjoy. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch the first half of the Daytona race, but I was able to watch the second half. But I do know in the first half of the stage, Corey LaJoie got really loose and basically the whole field had to check up for him because of the pack racing. And both Eric Almirola and Alex Bowman got very loose and spun out. I will talk about them in a little bit. Eventually, later in the race, um, more towards the end, Chase Elliott was out front and he went to the bottom of the racetrack, even though there wasn't any cars down there that were trying to pass him. So it was already a little strange. And then he tried to come back up and he was not clear and he put Matt DiBenedetto in the wall. Denny Hamlin checked up to try to avoid it, but he was eventually spun by, I believe, Brad Keselowski, and there was a huge wreck after that. So that was rather unfortunate, but a lot of cars got torn up. But Chase Elliott he didn't apologize in his interview, which I thought was a little strange. He didn't seem to really care that he wrecked the field. And it was just kind of a bad block, really. He wasn't really uh, being very careful. He just ran right up back to the front line, even though there wasn't even a lane there for him. Now, the end of the race after that was pretty interesting. The restart had taken place, and Daniel Suarez had a huge run on Kevin Harvick. And so he went to the bottom of Kevin, and unfortunately, Kurt Busch, who was pushing him, spun Daniel, who got into the quarter panel of Kevin Harvick. Now, Ryan Blaney had started up towards the front, so he was able to get out front and not get involved in the incident. Chris Buescher was also in front of this wreck, but it was third. Kevin Harvick was third place at the time, so he got spun, and eventually a lot of cars got involved. There was a huge wreck, and unfortunately a lot of good cars got torn up, but this was on the final lap, so the caution came out, and they gave Ryan Blaney the win. And honestly, Ryan Blaney isn't the kind of guy who's going to dominate a race and win. Earlier in the year, he had a pretty good run, especially at the very beginning of the season. And he had a lot of great runs, and eventually he won at Atlanta, beating out Kyle Larson. But he didn't really lead too many laps in that race. He actually stole the win from Kyle Larson pretty late in the race. Now, he has done this a lot. The Charlotte Roval, one of his wins, first and second wrecked themselves in the final corner. Jamie Johnson and Martin Truex Jr. And Ryan Blaney was running third, right place, right time, so he won. And then Atlanta, he stole the win. And then I just talked about it in my last video at Michigan. Ryan Blaney was in the right place at the right time. He was able to get the win there after not leading many laps at all. And here he is again, stealing a win late in the race. He's a very talented race car driver, but he just can't seem to lead too many laps. But he sure knows how to win a race. Now, the interesting part is, sure, he's been stealing the wins, so he hasn't really been dominating the races or even doing really good during the races. In fact, at the beginning of the Daytona race and Michigan race, he was complaining about his car a decent bit. He was actually saying that his car was terrible at the beginning of the Michigan race. So it just goes to show you that he is a pretty talented race car driver if he can win races in those types of cars. But, you might be thinking, okay, well, he steals his wins. So, he's maybe not as talented as you would think. Now, if his one career win was like Justin Haley at Daytona, where a rain caution and some strategy got him the win, you might be thinking that, that's not very impressive. But when you do it about 3 times in one season, when you're able to steal 3 wins and 2 in a row, at that point, you got to wonder. It might not be a fluke. He might actually be doing really good and just not able to put together full races and just be able to win at the end and not lead too many laps. And I think that is true. I think Ryan Blaney, he needs to work on the middle and beginning of his races, but he sure knows how to finish out a race. And one final thing I want to talk about this Daytona race is Bubba Wallace Jr. He's not done an incredible job with 2311. 2311 was pretty big at the beginning of the year. Everybody was thinking that they are going to compete for wins right off the bat. Michael Jordan was saying that they would, and they didn't do good. They didn't get a single top 10 in the first half of the year. In fact, their first top 10 came at Pocono maybe about a month ago. So that was a top 5, though. So I believe he finished 5th. That was pretty impressive, but he hasn't finished top 10 since then. And he's finally broken through and gotten another top 10 this weekend. And I was pretty impressed with his overall performance. He had a great run, and he ended up finishing 3rd. That was his best finish with 23:11 so far. Not his career best. He has finished 2nd at Daytona before. But I think he is really starting to figure out what he needs to do with this organization. A little earlier, Kurt Busch announced that he would be driving for 23:11. I think that that is a great thing for both 23:11 and Kurt Busch. I think that Kurt Busch is an incredible race car driver, even now, as he inches closer to retirement. I don't think he gets enough credit. I think he races for Chip Ganassi, not exactly an incredible race team, yet he's still able to get at least one win a year. And I honestly think that that is really impressive and that he'll do great things with 23:11. Landon Castle, he drove for the 96 team. I believe it was Gaunt Brothers Racing. Probably the most notable thing that Gaunt Brothers Racing has done is they hired Daniel Suarez for a year. This is probably Daniel Suarez's worst career Cup season. But at Daytona, he did a pretty good job in the 96. He, in fact, contended for wins and led some laps. And I was honestly impressed with what he did in the 96 car. And then Ty Dillon also drove in the 96 car, and he did pretty good in the 96. And I thought that, maybe this team is maybe a future super speedway team. I mean, we saw what the 62 did with Brendan Gaughan, and he was pretty good. He was able to contend for wins with that team. So maybe this team could be like that team and contend for wins at super speedways. And honestly, Landon Castle did a great job. He used to drive for the 00, which wasn't a very competitive race car. So I was really impressed to see him running top 10, even competing for the win at the end there. So hats off to Landon Castle. Thanks for watching. I will be making a video on which playoff drivers I think can make it to the championship 4 and win the championship. And overall, just talk about all 16 playoff drivers. And I'll see you then.